going. All right, you guys. So welcome to the weekly accountability call. This is our first one for our 30 days of focus. And I am thrilled that you guys are hopping on and getting to our call this week. If you can, I know, like I said, right before I pushed record, I was saying that this is kind of an awkward time, but I also think it's a really good time for a lot of people. It's early enough. It's going to be short enough that you can kind of get it in, get it done, and get going with the rest of your day. And it's also on Friday, like I mentioned on the kickoff call. I think almost all of you were on there. And if not, then you've watched the recording. The purpose of moving this to Friday is that I have noticed that, and myself included, right? That the weekend is often part of the hardest time of any health and wellness journey. It feels like things kind of fall apart toward the end of the week and the weekend. And then, you recommit Monday, and I get wanting to have the accountability call on Monday so you kick off the week strong. But the reality is I feel like we need to end the week with some wins. I feel like we also need to kind of get our heads on straight for the next week as well. So today's content, we're going to talk about some personality types and how that might impact your health and wellness journey and how you receive and use accountability, and also how to manage expectations within yourself and with others with your health and wellness journey. But before we do that, I want you guys to hop in the chat and list some of your wins of the week. And I'm going to go to the Facebook group because I know there's several people who could not hop on that did post their Friday positive party. You guys have been so good about getting in and actually doing the prompts. I feel like sometimes in a group, the prompts are not ever used. And that's, I mean, honestly, it's fine. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. But that is part of your experiences. That prompt is there to help you reflect, give you education, encourage you, inspire you. So be sure that you're plugging in with all of the resources you're given, not just some of them. So Marissa said, it's been a tough week, but the two highlights have been this community and accountability when I don't feel like showing up for myself, and the weather has got me lots of sunshine. Praying next week is better. She's been sick all week. Erica says her win is that she has felt light every day this week. This time of year is not always easy for me and usually weighs heavy on my mental and emotional shoulders. I don't think she would mind saying that she really struggles with seasonal affective disorder. And this time of year in Clarksville is very gray and dreary. And so I'm thrilled that she feels light and energetic. Linda says, my win is no heartburn or tummy aches. I feel good. I'm also happy that I have lost 3.4 pounds as of this morning. Susan, I don't know if you've put yours in the chat. Oh, I don't see anybody has used the chat. Can you guys make sure that you put your wins in the chat, please? My win is the daily victory over stinking thinking. I found a study last night, Hobby Lobby, bless you, that I am excited to begin, called Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. And I hadn't commented yet, Susan, but a group of ladies at our church just did that last fall and said really, really good things about it. So good choice. And then Amanda says, feeling happy and proud of myself for making choices to work toward the me that I want to be, which that is the whole point of all of this. Amy says her win is daily devotional time, and I didn't realize I missed that so much. The new house is starting to look like a home. Agreed. I think being able to track those I don't want to say insignificant, because nothing is insignificant, right? Like I literally put shower on my to-do list yesterday. Like, are you 38 if you have to put your shower on your to-do list? But there we are. Felt good to check it off too. But nothing is insignificant, but doing those very small habits are the things that spur on more habits, that spur on more change. And so I am thrilled. One of my favorite things, you guys, is to log into my app here, and I have eyes on everybody. I know you guys don't have eyes on everybody in the group. You can always, and I was going to put up a post today where if you guys want to share your email address you signed up for it with, so that you can also follow each other. Please, I definitely want you guys to be supporting one another as well. But I love logging in and seeing all of the little habits get checked off. I get notifications, and normally I don't keep notifications on my phone, but I have to tell you, that has been such an encouragement to me too. Many times I'm like, ooh, Kimmy has already done her workout. I guess I better get going with my workout kind of thing. Or I saw, Vicky got her water in. I'm gonna go drink some more water because I got to keep up, and that kind of directly leads into our content. Oh, yay. And then let's see, there's another win in here, being able to go to physical therapy and learning what I can do to speed my recovery without forcing it too soon. I am happy I made it through the short week without being in a bad mood since I'm not used to getting up this early. Amen to that. My wins are doing habits every day and getting through most of my administrative to-dos, which I dislike. Again, amen, amen, and amen. I also am not a fan of administrative to-dos, which was my day mostly yesterday. Okay, so let's jump in to our content because, like I said, I want to respect you guys' time. I know this is middle of the day throughout the mainland, and then first thing in the day for us in Hawaii. But today's topic is, like I said, it's kind of, it goes along with the if you, I don't know, you guys put in the chat if you are reading either one of the personal development books that I mentioned or the one that I am reading, because I am loving Gretchen Rubin's Better Than Before. And I think the part that I love, and this is, I'm not one of those people that's like sold out on a personality test, but I do think that stuff like that really helps reveal our tendencies. And I liked that she frames them in the words tendencies and expectations, because I never like anything that puts us in a box, right? Like, I believe that we are fluid creatures. We can change. I believe that the Lord helps us along that journey, that we are capable of change. I'm not the kind of I've watched it firsthand, people change their whole life. And yes, it takes effort. It honestly is not a mindless process. It takes a lot of effort to change those old habits and beliefs about ourselves. But I do believe that you are capable of change. And so I like the way Gretchen Rubin has been phrasing it in the book, that it's a tendency. It may not be what you always do, but it is, yay, awesome. Atomic Habits is such a good book, you guys. I love the way he frames a lot of the habit building. But so we're going to talk about the 4 tendencies, and I'm going to kind of explain them. And then I want to hear in the chat if what I'm saying resonates with you. Because again, and I thought it was funny because as she was listing them and going on about them in the book, it was kind of eye-opening to me, because I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of more one than the, or I'm more than one is what I mean to say. Like, oh, I can kind of see myself in that. And oh, I can kind of see myself in that. And oh, I can kind of see myself in that. Until at the end, she said, you probably see yourself in a little of all of these, and that's totally, totally normal. But just know that there is one that you default to without any without any healing, without any self-development, without any working on yourself whatsoever. You're going to default to one of these. And so be super honest with yourself. And I thought that was really helpful. So there are 4 kinds: the upholder, the obliger, the questioner, and the rebel. And I'm going to kind of explain a little bit about each one of those. And like I said, I would love to hear kind of your initial impression. And then what, kind of, as I explain a little bit, where you're like, oh yeah, no, I see what you're saying. So the 4 tendencies, like I said, the upholder, the way she explains it is they meet all external and internal expectations. And so I guess I should explain the expectation portion. So you exist in a bubble of expectation. Every single one of us do, whether you work outside the home, you work inside the home, you're a spouse, you are a mother, whatever role you see yourself in, whether you're a ministry leader, whatever it is, you have expectations from other people, and you hold internal expectations as well. You hold these ways of being that a lot of people, and I'm sure you guys can see this sometimes in yourself, but you feel like you let yourself down, or you feel like you let others down, or you feel like you've made yourself proud, or you feel like you're making someone else proud. That's what I mean when I say expectations. Okay. So backing up, upholder meets all expectations to a fault. They feel this internal drive to hold both internal, like self-motivated expectations, and external motivation. So the motive or the expectations of others. The questioner has a tendency to meet internal expectations, but not external expectations, because they need to question everything. They need to understand why that expectation matters. A good example would be getting up at 5 a.m. If I told Amanda, from now on, Amanda, I want you to get up at 5 a.m. and say Amanda is a questioner, if it does not make sense for her and she can't validate why it makes sense to get up at 5 a.m., like, why should I even do that? She's most likely not going to do it. But if internally she has made a decision that this expectation, whatever that may be, makes sense, it serves a purpose, it is logical, she's very likely to essentially pressure herself into doing it and meeting that expectation. So that's a questioner. Obliger meets external expectations, but not internal expectations, meaning if I will use the same scenario, if Amanda is an obliger and I told Amanda, hey, you know what, I'm your coach and I believe that waking up at 5 a.m. is exactly what you need to do to hit your goals, she's going to do it because she feels like she's going to let me down or her boss down or her husband down or her kids down. Hopefully you're tracking and you're understanding what I'm saying. But if she sat that, if she was like, maybe I'm going to start getting up at 5, but she doesn't, because she has nobody to meet an expectation. She doesn't believe that she needs to do that for herself. And then a rebel, obviously, I feel like you guys know what that is. They resist all expectations, internal and external. They exist in this world where they need to almost not meet it to spite you. Going through the same scenario, if Amanda was a rebel, and I said, Amanda, I want you to start waking up at 5 a.m. I truly believe that that's what you need to do. She's like, great, I'm sleeping till 9. Like, no explanation, no reason. Like, sweet, thanks for letting me know. Definitely not going to do that. Going to be a little spiteful about it too. And it's funny, as I was going through each one of those tendencies, those personality tendencies, like I said, I could see myself a little in all of them, right? Like, there's been different times in my life where I have felt pieces of that specifically, and I'll just share from my own experience, specifically questioner and rebel, right? Like, you guys, I feel like, know me fairly well. You know that I have a tendency to not appreciate authority. Don't really like it. I don't know where it comes from. If it's childhood trauma, we can heal that later in therapy. But I'm a fan of authority, and I really don't like someone telling me what to do. I even said in my stories, I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram story, but last night I did literally every single thing on my checklist that I set out for myself, except for one, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to take down my Christmas stuff, and I'm going to kind of be a snot about it, because I was like, you know what? I'm a grown woman. There's not another adult human in my house, and nobody can tell me to do what I don't want to do. So I'm not taking it down, and I might leave it up till February. Like, the more people tell me I need to do it, the more I'm just probably not going to. But my main, as I continued to like self-evaluate, my main is I'm a questioner. If you told me why I needed to take down my Christmas decorations and it made sense, like maybe I'm about to have a birthday party and have 50 kids over, and not 50, that seems like a lot, let's go with 10. I'm gonna have 10 kids over and I'm afraid they're gonna knock over my Christmas decorations, I'd have it down in 30 minutes, right? Like, if I can make it make sense and validate it in my own head, I will meet that expectation, and typically very, very quickly. So those 4 tendencies have an impact on how you deal with accountability. In this group, my profession in many ways has a lot to do with accountability. And I loved what she had said. in the book, and now of course I'm not going to remember her exact words, but it had to do with tracking. And it, if you've been in the Beachbody world for very long, you know that tracking your nutrition, tracking whatever, is helpful. But what you track, what you measure will grow. And so if you, and that's kind of the purpose, we go back to the habit tracker, right? Like, you are, if you are being honest, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in a second too. If you're being honest with yourself and you're honestly tracking, like, for example, I'll like throw myself under the bus here. One of my habits that I am tracking is that I dramatically need to cut down on alcohol and sugar. The month of December, I read this yesterday and I thought it was funny. Somebody, it was a post and it said, are you doing a dry January, a damp January, or a torrential downpour January? And I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, it just made me giggle when you say things like that. And I am intending to do a dry January because I feel like I had a torrential downpour December. And not that like I'm like falling all over the place drunk, but way more alcohol than I would normally drink, way more sugar than I would normally eat. And we can blame it on the holidays, but the truth of the matter is the beginning of December was an incredibly stressful time in our family's life. And so it had to do with that. It had to do with social events. Like, there's 1,000 reasons why there was way too much sugar in this house and in my mouth. So I decided that was one of the things. And so this past Wednesday, we had a celebration at our jujitsu gym for some girls who rank advanced. And I had told myself, okay, well, I'm not going to have the cake, right? I was like, okay, I had made this decision. We talked about decisions last on the kickoff call. I had made a decision. This is what I'm going to do. Well, of course, then there's the peer pressure, right? The social expectations of, oh, just try this new beer. My friend made it and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I can just have a sip. Well, I can just have a little bite of the cake, right? And so my, not tendency, but my initial desire was to get on my habit tracker app when we were, closing out the day, when I was getting ready for bed and I'm checking off all the things. Because several of mine I can't really check off till the evening, like, because they're an all day event sort of thing, like not having processed sugar or alcohol. And I was like, ooh, well, I could just say that I didn't. Like, nobody is going to know. But the truth of the matter is, I know. And so that internal expectation, we go back to the questioner, right? We go back to the obliger. We go back to the rebel and the upholder. The internal expectation drive for me is very strong because I have justified why that goal matters to me. And we talk about that a lot in this group. And what I want to know, is in the chat, I want you to put which one you think you kind of identify with. And you don't have to know everything, but just kind of go with your gut instinct here. Are you somebody most people that would describe themselves as people pleasers are upholders, just so you know. Upholders or obligers. Just in case I hear a lot of people are like, yeah, I really struggle with being a people pleaser. Some people are like, I don't struggle with that at all. I don't even want to please people. I kind of want to not please people. You're probably a rebel if that's you. But I want to know that. And the other thing that I want to know is if anybody in here has found themselves this week with a habit that they are consistently not hitting the mark. Because I want to kind of explore that a little bit and make sure that that habit that you've chosen, because remember, nobody chose these habits for you other than the 30 minutes of movement, which I chose for you. Everybody else set up all their own personal expectations in the habits. So I'm curious to know if you have set one that you keep, like, you get to the end of the night and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't do that. Oh shoot, I didn't drink my water. Oh shoot, I drink alcohol when I said I wasn't going to, whatever it is. You can't hit the breakfast thing. Haley, is that you? Because there's two iPhone. Oh, that's Vicky. Okay, Vicky, because both of you, I think, struggle with breakfast. So, okay. You have to determine why that matters. And I'd be curious to know, and Vicky, I feel like I know, but I want you to tell me. Do you feel like you are a rebel or an obliger or a questioner or whatever? Because I think that drives a lot of what why you might not be, and maybe it's honestly, and some of it might not be any, like, you might not need to dig at all. Some of it might be like an environment thing. You're a people pleaser. Okay. So do you know that I'm watching you on the habit tracker app and I'm watching you not eat breakfast and you don't care? You do. Okay. Maybe I need to up my disappointment level in you if I see that you have not, hit your mark. Cause I think that that's, yeah, no, Haley, I've noticed that you really are hitting your marks. The difference between the first two that I said, let me go back to so the upholder meets all expectations, internal and external. So those are people, like I said, they're not just people pleasers. They genuinely desire to meet expectations. A lot of times they really thrive with lists, like put it like the habit tracker app, or like every single day writing out a list. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do, because they get an internal satisfaction. Not just like, man, that felt good, but like, yeah, I did that, of checking off that list. Like that feels really good and not just, it doesn't just feel good to them, it drives them to want to do it more. That's an obliger. And kind of the same way they thrive with lists and habits and stuff like that. Questioner is meeting external expectations, but not internal, or I'm sorry, did I say that right? Meeting internal expectations, not external. So again, that's the type of person that I need you to tell me why it matters, because I need to transfer it from an external expectation into an internal expectation. If you are into Enneagrams at all, I'm mildly interested. I just think it's fascinating. Any kind of like psychology. They're typically eights. They need it to feel like it was their idea to begin with. Susan, I am definitely a questioner, missing your water intake goal consistently. So that's one of those things where you have to internally validate why it matters, and why, because otherwise, like, if and I will say kind of the same thing for me with the water, because the whole month of December I did not track my water, and that to me has made all the difference. You want to know, it has changed the game, and I talk about it a lot, but the implementation of it literally changes the game. A 1 gallon container. Get a container that holds the exact amount that you want to drink, whether that's a gallon, half gallon. If it's 100 ounces, that's fine. Mark your bottle and fill it up in the morning and watch it. Like, pour from the thing. You don't have to drink it straight like me from the actual gallon. Like, I feel like I'm being a little ridiculous with it. But, and actually Eden told me last night, you're being really ridiculous about your water, mom. And I was like, I know I am, but it works. Like, for me, this works, because this is an internal thing that I have decided. Not only do I feel better doing, or not only do I believe that this is something that healthy people do, right? Drink water. I also 100%, I see a difference on the scale when I drink a gallon of water. I see a difference in my face when I drink a gallon of water. There are very obvious and visible differences between when I drink randomly and maybe sometimes get it in, and when I drink a measured amount. So I think setting yourself up for a good environment, especially for a questioner, if you have decided this is something that I need to do, is typically all it will take to get you to switch into that habit. Um, and then building that into your nightly routine. So like for me, I fill this up the night before. I don't wait till the morning, because then, kids and life and all the things. Before I go to bed, this is the thing that I fill up. I get it to the amount that I want. And then the next day I drink from this. And again, it's a little ridiculous, but I get every single ounce of my water in every single day, that I do it this way. Let's see. That is my husband, not me. I'm a rebel, questioner, maybe sometimes, but not really. Or the one. Is that it? Oh, good. Vicky, you changed yours. That's you, Haley. You're a rebel, a questioner, maybe sometimes, but not really, and the one about lists.
I've been
Okay.
all right. I'm not a questioner and I'm not the one on the list. So what's the fourth one?
Let's see. That one is the obliger. You'll meet external expectations, but not internal.
That's me.
Yeah. So somebody like if you had a job and your boss was like, this is your set of expectations, you will bust your butt to hit those expectations. Yeah. Then you're in a what did I say? An
I will
obliger.
get whatever the job's done on the outside done, but I will not internally want to be doing it, but I'll do it anyway.
Right, right. And it doesn't have to be a desire to do it because you feel good about it or you want to do it. But this is the set of expectations, and I will rise to meet that. I might kick and scream and roll my eyes all along the way. And I think that's where that like little rebellious streak comes in, but you will hit that expectation. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and we can dive in. I'm going to put a post up that kind of goes through a little bit more of all of this just for time's sake. But I do find it really fascinating that when you start looking at your natural tendency, it does make it a little easier to understand how to adjust things so that you can be more successful. Amanda, I'm having trouble with sleep, so it's hard for me to go to sleep when everyone else is awake. I've been hitting my 8 hours, but it feels like such a struggle. I feel like I've only been getting my 8 hours because school hasn't restarted next week, so I don't have to get up early. And you feel like you thrive best on 8 hours of sleep, right? Okay. And everyone else is awake. So everyone, what time are you trying to go to bed? If you need to
I'm
get eight
usually trying
hours,
to go to bed around 10 and
10
then
p.m.
hmm but we've been doing this like kitchen project.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband and my kids who are older, they're not little, they're almost 13 and my son will be 16 this month. So they've been helping with that. So like everyone's awake, there's noises, I'm trying to go to sleep and it's hard.
Well, A, I don't blame you. And B, if you have FOMO of like, or not even FOMO, but like, I think of Davin. Like when he was a baby, if there was stuff going on, he was just nosy. He had to know what was going on. Like, what was that noise? What was that noise? What was that noise? So maybe, and this is kind of silly, but either A, if they all need more sleep, maybe instituting some kind of like quiet hours in the house. Like, I don't care if you're up, I don't care what you're doing, but you can't be making noise because 10 o'clock is 10 o'clock, right? Like quiet hours need quiet. I think of, the RA
That'll
situation.
work for next week, but this week is just yeah.
Totally. Totally. And sometimes you just have to understand that you're in a season of like quiet hours don't make sense if you have like I think about having a baby. What are you gonna you can't reason with a toddler. You can't reason with a 10-month old. If they're crying, they're crying. You can't be like, honey, you can't cry because it's quiet hours. It's kind of the same situation. It's Christmas break. They don't want to go to bed. So maybe that just needs to be next week's goal, and that's
Mhm.
okay. The other thing is, I think the other thing I think idea wise is if this continues, like if I think about my mom and my dad, right? My dad goes to bed long before my mother goes to bed. They exist on completely different sleep cycles. My mom doesn't go to bed till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. My dad goes to bed at 9:30, sometimes 10 if he can make it. Like that's just who he is. But he goes in the bed and he still uses a sleep or a sound machine because my mom's half deaf and she wants to listen to the TV at full blast. So he shuts the door and I know, bless her.
Mm.
And he has a sound machine. And so we tease him like, oh, daddy, go put your sound machine on because you're like, when my kids were babies and I had a sound machine. But that's what helps him get to sleep. So maybe something in that. I also I don't know if you've ever seen them. I have a fabric headband that has headphones in it, and that may help too. Because I feel like sometimes, and you can just have, you know, sleep sounds or sound machine or a meditation or like some kind of just like music or something, whatever would help you sleep. I don't sleep that great with it, but I do find that even just having something over my ears helps. And half the time it falls off in the middle of the night. By that point, I'm asleep anyway, so who cares? Yeah, and Vicky, she called it a sleep divorce. They don't sleep in the same room, which I think is funny. And
I
I
actually
would
like that idea.
you're not the only one apparently. So okay, so we are getting ready to wrap up here, but I do want you guys to give some thought in over this weekend about how you can set yourself up for success as far as, or how about I say this? I want you to evaluate the habits that you've set up, because at this point you've been doing those habits for 4 or 5 days, depending on when you started. And maybe you realize that some of those habits are not serving you. They don't make sense for your life, and they just don't, they're not serving you. And maybe there's some kind of external expectation that somebody has told you that you need to meet, and you feel obliged to meet that, even though you're killing yourself trying to meet it. It's like, there are some pretty foundational or not tendencies. There are some pretty foundational aspects of health and wellness, right? Like, they're not arguable. Like, I work in the nutrition field, and I have for many, many years now, and people will argue with me, and they probably aren't arguing, but as an 8, I feel like they're arguing. I'm like, great, let's get our combat gear on. Like, let's suit up here. But I feel like they're being combative against some like nutrition principles. Like, I will talk to people and they're like, no, I'm telling you, you should not start eating until 11 a.m. and everybody's body needs to begin intermittent fasting, or, carbs make you fat. Like, or what, they want to argue about all kinds of things. No, coffee also counts as water. Like, okay, whatever you want to think. But like, there are some pretty foundational tendencies if you want to be a healthy, well person across all cultures, across all creation. Move your body, fuel it with nutrient-dense food, go to bed, and drink water. There are not any like fully healthy people who aren't doing some version of those things. Within those things, it can always look different. But those 4 things are like, nobody on this call is going to be like, I don't know. I think I need to drink Coke if I want to be healthy. Like, no, come on. Like, everyone knows that that's not, it's kind of like smoking. Like, no, nobody thinks that smoking is healthy for you. You might still do it, but nobody thinks you're being a healthy smoker, right? So if one of your habits within those 4 is not serving you very well, maybe what we need to do is change what it is. So if you're struggling to get those 30 minutes in, maybe instead of holding yourself to some expectation that you've got to get in a workout, I've got to have this Beachbody or Peloton or whatever workout system that you've bought into, maybe if you consistently keep not hitting that habit, maybe what you need to do is go for a walk. Or maybe if you're already at the gym, go for a swim. Give that a try. Try something new and different. Maybe you play racquetball, maybe whatever it is, getting in that 30 minutes of intentional movement is the point. It's not to make yourself do something you hate. For the 30 minutes. Same with the water. If you're struggling with water, number 1, know that if, there were several people in the accountability group this week that were really struggling with their water. I'm not surprised. And I want you guys to understand that you too should not be surprised. If you're going from 0, trying to hit 100, you will most likely not hit that every single day of the week. It is okay. Like, give yourself a lot of grace. We talked about that in the kickoff call. Giving yourself grace to make incremental small changes. I'm not holding you to an expectation of perfection. So if you consistently come up with this shame and this guilt of not hitting it, know that you're the only person that's holding yourself to that expectation. And maybe look at the 4 tendencies that we talked about today. And like I said, I'll type them out and put up like an actual post for those of you that learn best through reading. But maybe look at that and start acknowledging that you've got to do a little self-forgiveness work, that you don't have to hit those expectations yet. You'll get there. I think we all feel like there's a ticking time clock and I've got to hit these things every day. And if I don't, it's not going to work out and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is you have your whole life. Like, just keep making the changes. They will snowball. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for hopping on. I am so grateful that everybody here was able to get on. I'm going to snap a quick little photo of us because we're cute. Give a little smile, a little shaka, something. Cheese. Okay. We will be back here next Friday at 8 a.m. Hawaii time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. But in the meantime, please continue through the weekend of accountability post in the, or not post, but I guess post comments, whatever. Nightly accountability typically like takes a nosedive. Don't do that this week. Like, commit to yourself, put it on, set an alarm on your phone that you're going to do accountability Saturday and Sunday. If you're trying to make changes in your life, you need to be accountable all 7 days, not just when you feel like it. So, if you have questions, please post them in the group. Amanda, thank you for sharing some devotional stuff this week. That was super great. If anybody comes across stuff, this is a community. It's not the Danielle show. I say that all the time, but I mean it with my whole heart. Please feel free. The only like group rule is no self-promotion. We don't do self-promotion. So if you're selling something, I'm gonna not let you post it. But if you have any encouragement, anything like that, please, 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 you would watch the Danielle show. Need at least do my hair and makeup. Oh, y'all are sweet and cute, but also like, can I get some lashes on if we're gonna do that? So. All right, you guys, have a great weekend, and I love you lots. I'll talk to you next week, if not before, in the group.